Welcome to I'm Still Here, a podcast on making art after kids. I'm Mary Atkins.
And I'm Kate Tellers, and we're parents who are also people who make art.
What do we mean by art, Kate?
Just creative stuff. And we're here today with Elena Delgado.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
So, Mary, Elena has a very sweet kid. Elena, tell us about
Little Felix.
Little Felix.
Little Felix. He is 3.5. He's hilarious. He has started to tell jokes, which I find amazing. It's like, Mommy, I'm ready to say a joke. I'm like, cool, you go for it.
He announces the joke?
Yeah, he's like, I'm ready to say it.
How
like,
does he know
cool.
what a joke, like, just
He
have
knows
you given him jokes?
No, well, I think he
is
gets them.
writing
I
his
think
own?
he gets them from Grandpa. But his favorite one is, why did the banana go to the doctor?
Why?
Because he wasn't peeling well.
I love that he loves wordplay.
Does he get that
Really
it's
amazing.
wordplay?
Yeah, he gets it. I think
he
he gets
does.
it. It's a pun, yeah.
Wow.
He thinks it's funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know Felix because Felix is the same age as Fritz, my son, and they met in a science class for babies.
Oh my
in
God.
Ridgewood, which is amazing.
Love
it's a class
that.
of
It's called
baby.
Science Baby.
Appropriately
It's
enough.
great.
How fun.
It was really fun. For a while, we were going every week, and then we, some of the parents from the class sort of, saw like the desperation in each other's eyes, and we started to do playgroups, and now have formed, a gang or a posse
Yeah,
or
I
some
love
sort.
Felix and Fritz.
Yes,
That's
and
my
your
duo.
son is
And my son is Finn, who is 6 months old.
Felix, Fritz, and Finn.
Yeah.
Well, Elena, we're super psyched to have you here. And I guess the first question we have for you, this is a podcast on making art after kids. So we
Yeah.
want to know, tell us about your art and tell us how you got there. It's twofold.
Yeah. Well, first I have to say that the word art gives me hives.
Us too.
Us too.
Like it
We've
just
had a lot
it
of
feels like
conversations.
the label is like hard for me. I'm like, am I allowed to wear the mantle of artist?
Right. Well, that's why
Right.
we say creative.
Should I
We
put it?
talked-
On, yeah.
Yes.
Should I put it on my Instagram byline or not?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel you.
This is hard.
We feel this.
Really.
Well, we can brainstorm. Do we have other ideas for what to call it? Because we've said creative stuff, but you don't want to. Creative stuff feels weird.
And we kind of like creative practice, but that also sounds kind of serious in a way.
Does
Like
sound very
your
serious. Writing
creative
down the bones.
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
we
we should all
decided to
just-
just
yeah.
like go with art, and
I
then
think that's good.
just like we can all have therapy about using that
I
word.
think that's great.
Yeah. Just tell us about your
lean into it.
creative life. I don't know. Tell us about your.
Yeah, so I am primarily an aerialist, and I am also an aerial instructor and choreographer, and I guess I would call it, some sort of performance art type of thing, like performance artist, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can you describe what being an aerialist is?
So it's a kind of like a circus art form, basically, and I do static aerial fabric or aerial silks and aerial hoop mostly. So, which is also called lyra. So it's not like flying trapeze, but it's like incorporates a lot of those sort of acrobatic movements, and then is also influenced heavily now by dance, particularly like the contemporary circus scene is very dance based. So yeah.
So if I can describe as a layperson 2 experiences I've had with Elena that have been somewhat transformative for me. So I have, as you know, 2 children. So I have Fritz, who's 3.5, but then I have a baby who's turning 1 in a couple of weeks. So I have essentially been feeding a child with my body since 2014 because I had a baby and then I nursed and then there was like a couple of months where I wasn't and then I got pregnant again, whatever. So I've always said after the second kid, I'm taking my body back because it's essentially been in service for someone else. So I wanted to do aerial work. So my husband for my birthday gave me a lesson with Elena and we went to the circus
Which he overpaid
space.
for.
Okay.
Like significantly.
I'm just saying.
He was like-
working that in.
Yeah.
He was like, this is an envelope. Elena won't take it. Give it to her. So I didn't look at it. I just handed it to her. So I went to the circus space and there was this big silk, but it's not this fabric hanging from this
It's
like huge-
polytricot, but go on.
It's polytricot. I'm like putting it in layman's terms. There's things hanging from the ceiling. So it's this warehouse, and Elena and we did all these warm-ups, and it was it was hilarious because like I just haven't been working out or stretching or taking care of my own body. You know, the early stage of parenting is so physically exhausting.
And how long was this after having Iris?
So Iris was born October 30th and my birthday's February 18th.
Oh,
so Iris
really
was like,
soon.
it was around, was it in February?
She was like 5 months.
Yeah, she was like 4 or 5 months old.
Yeah.
And so Elena would be like, turn your head. And I'd be like, oh, like every piece of it because my whole body was falling apart. But then I got in the silks and did things. But just from like the interplay, like Elena's strength is like insane. I mean, she's like hanging, twisting. So cut to hanging and twisting. I'm so bastardizing your art.
No. It's actually really hard to describe. I've read novels before that have had like that have tried to describe aerial circus arts like within them, and it's hard to describe in this weird way because it's so like spectacular that it kind of lends itself to kind of flowery descriptions of it.
Yeah.
So and novelists love to do that, but it's hard to just be like it's acrobatics, but I don't know.
She like hangs from a ceiling and spins, but is used. I mean, it's insane. Okay, so cut to like 2 months ago, Elena has a show in this secret loft called.
It's called Secret Loft.
Secret Loft.
Oh, okay.
So I go to the show. I've only known from Elena like at this lesson and us talking about what Elena does, and she comes onto the stage and does this act, and it is like raucous. People are drinking. There's edibles. There's like drag. I mean, the whole bit. It's a fun, like raucous night. And I'm sitting in the audience watching Elena do a hilarious and physical version of Unbreak My Heart.
By Toni Braxton.
By Toni Braxton, but as a crazed woman. And I am like weeping. Like no one is crying. It is not a crying piece. It's a comedy piece. But I have never made friends with a parent. I've made friends with a parent, as you know. I realized until that point that so much of my life had been about making friends through art. Mm-hmm. And that was how I met people, is because we, like you and I met in a writing class, and I meet people in comedy and I met people. And that's what always glued me to people. And this was the first time now in my life when I'm making friends that are parents that I feel are like compassionate souls and people that I relate to. And there is in our friend group, I think we're all creative largely because the class met during the weekday. So there was at least one parent that wasn't going to a 9-to-5 job. And it ends up that each couple has 1 to 2 creative in the couple. Everyone is couples. So anyway, I was just sort of like crying over the beauty of that I could like discover creativity and
after
art
knowing
in a friend,
after
knowing
while.
Someone who I like trust as like a parent and a compassionate person. You know, we've like marched togetger and raised our kids. And it was a really like
that's really cool
emotional experience for me. So anyway, Elena's art is transformative and
full stop. How did you get into this?
So I moved to New York in 2006, right after graduating college in San Francisco. And I moved to New York to become a visual artist. Like I wanted to pursue an MFA in sculpture. And I like went through that application process and bartended at the same time. And it was terrible because that's terrible. I'm like 20 and just it was terrible. And the only person that I knew when I moved out here who had been a friend from before was this girl, Eleanor, who I'm actually I haven't spoken to in years, but she had taken circus as like a little girl, like kind of like circus schmirkus, like, like the child. Do you know what circus schmirkus is?
No, I didn't know
like
that was a proper
No, it's a thing. It's like a kid's like circus.
Yeah.
And then like Pickle Family Circus too. Like these kind of like kids. And they started doing like traditional aerial acrobatics, like classes for children in like New York and San Francisco. And so she had gone to like some summer camp or something and like done it. So she was into it as an adult. Like when she moved to New York, she found a now defunct circus school called New York Circus Arts Academy. And she started taking classes there. And I didn't know anybody else. And I was like, okay, I'll take a class with you. Like hang out with me. I don't have any friends. So then I like started to do it. And I just really fell in love with it really quickly. It filled a lot of holes in my life that I didn't really know were there. So the first one was just like being in my body as a movement person, because I had been very self-identified as like a chubby indoor kid for my entire life, especially like in high school. Like I was like, I'm a nerd. I wear ugly clothing and I read books inside. And like that was like my identity. And but I was also like a theater kid, like very theatrical, like theater nerd. So it like helped me be able to get into my body in a way that I had never experienced before, because it was not as intimidating as dance, weirdly, because it was like less formal. Like you're taking these classes in these like dirty warehouses. This is when like the circus scene in New York was like burgeoning and there wasn't a lot going on. So it was like really only like 1 or 2 spaces. And it was like people would like, you know, find an abandoned warehouse and like throw up fabrics on the ceiling, and you would like take these classes, and there were rats and no air conditioning. By the way, if there's rats on the floor, you get strong really quickly because you do not want to come off the floor.
Oh my gosh.
You like stay up there. It's really good for forearm conditioning.
Motivation.
Yeah. It's really good. So yeah, I just started taking these classes, and then I was like, oh, like through this art form, I can kind of like check all my boxes. So being in my body in a way that I had like never been before, which was amazing for me, and like gaining skills that I just didn't think were possible. Basically, I was like, I can do these things that they felt like weirdly like achievable and impossible at the same time. If that makes sense. So that, and then like because I had been like a theater person and I was very theatrical, I was like, oh, I can do this as performance and like express like kind of like a narrative, emotional like thing through this work. And then also because I had been like a sculpture person, I started doing a lot of like costuming for it. And then the way that my work is now is I'm kind of using the apparatus themselves and like the bodies in space as like its own sort of immersive sculpture through the way I choreograph for other people. Not specifically in my own work. In my own work, it's more like cabaret style, like I'd say influenced by drag and burlesque more than anything else. But in the group pieces that I choreograph for others, it's much more like sculptural. So I was able to do all the things that I wanted to do at once. I mean, but it took like years and years and years and years to like get there, because like, I don't know, it was just such a weird thing. Like at first it was literally like just for fun and exercise. And then I just like became more and more addicted to it and started getting better and better. And then I was like able to like incorporate all of my other interests and channel them through it.
Yeah,
That was great.
I know we have to get to kids, but I feel like we could talk about this for so long. This is incredible. So I'm wondering, like, what is the transit? Because you said at first it was just like kind of a form of exercise.
Yeah.
Like, what was the transition from that into, oh, I can express myself through this creatively?
Yeah. I feel like it was the first like student performance that I did. Like when I was a student. So I was taking these classes, and then one of the women who was working at this space that doesn't exist anymore kind of started to run her like own classes and like a competing space. Mm-hmm. Aerialists have a lot of like drama about like proprietary, like who's teaching who what and whatever. But she was like running her own classes. And then she decided to put on a show, like a showcase for her students, which now I like run and choreograph for like other students. Like I'll help them like, or I'll put on shows that like incorporate students. And when I first started to produce like larger scale work, it was from students, because it's a really easy way to like make work, because they'll pay to like participate in this workshop, right? Like I paid to participate in this like workshop showcase when I was a student.
Right.
And so then you're not like, you know, putting on a theatrical production is like the riskiest thing in the entire world. And the likelihood is that you will lose tons of money, especially when you're like spending money on like costuming and all the other things. So yeah. And so I did the student showcase, and it was like the silliest thing ever. It was like mermaids and like pirates, and like the aerialists were like the mermaids. And then there were these like pirate characters.
So fun.
And there was like someone made a giant like octopus prop that like ate the pirates. And yeah, it was just like really silly. And like we were like sewing together, like sewing these costumes, and like it just felt really freeing, because like I had to come from art school, which was like, make it good, you know? And this was like,
this was playful.
Let's just make it fun. Yeah. Let's just make stuff for fun. And I was like, yes, that is what I would like to do. I would like to make things for fun. So yeah. And then it like kind of snowballed from there.
So cool.
Yeah.
And then, okay, how many years into that did you get pregnant?
Oh, okay. So I got pregnant in 2000. So 2014, because Felix was born in 2015. I started taking aerial classes in 2006. I didn't really become a professional until about 5 years later. So, and I like had some like, so I probably like 2010, 2011 was when I really started to like do it full time and become a performer and an instructor as my primary kind of job. Obviously I was like bartending at the same time for like quite a long time. And I went to graduate school somewhere in there for a second.
Oh, you did?
And then dropped out.
Yeah. For what?
English literature.
I feel like an alternate name for this podcast could be obviously I was bartending.
Yes.
So a few years into being a professional, you got pregnant. And what was being pregnant like as a professional aerialist?
It was terrifying and really scary because I didn't know what was going to happen to my body. And also I feel like my career, I'm like putting air quotes around the word career because I still don't even think of like, I still have trouble like owning that as like, this is like an actual job and like form of work, even though it is. I feel like my career had been still so new. Like I still was like, figuring it out in a way. Like I hadn't done that many like large scale pieces for other people. Like I was like unsure of myself as a choreographer. So I really was more at that time, the time that I got pregnant, I was more just like a working aerialist, which is like, I would do like, I call them sparkly lady gigs, which is like late night. No, this is true. So it's like late night, like you're at the club and they like put up a hoop, right? And then they like hire you to come and like do ambient sets in like sparkly outfits for like, several $100s a night. And then you just like do them and you're out till like 3 a.m. and like that's your job. So I would say like before that I was like doing that and teaching and hadn't done so much like choreographing and like large scale production work. So when I got pregnant I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do sparkly lady work for a long time, maybe ever, so it was like kind of terrifying. But what happened was that it forced me to like do the things that I consider my work now, which I had wanted to do before, but there was never like quote unquote time because I was like, oh, well, I have to like take this job to make money. So like I have to do this work, even though it's like not very inspiring. And like when you're doing all that work, there's like just less time to do the other work. So
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So that's when you really started choreographing more and doing like student and teaching more too?
I was teaching before, but yes. I stopped teaching obviously around, I was 7 months pregnant when I stopped because one of my students kicked me in my baby belly. And I was like, I think I should stop.
I think we're done.
I think we're done here. I'm sure she felt really bad.
I'm sure.
No doubt. Well, so you were saying before you were like chubby kid that finds your way to aerial. So then like when you were pre-pregnancy, what were your feelings on your body?
Oh my God. It was a mess. It was a mess. Like that, I mean, oh my God, it was such a mess, which now like I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful for my pregnancy for forcing me out of this like horrible mindset that I was in, which was like, cause I was like a chubby kid who like, I like hated my body for forever. And then when I came to aerial, I was like, this is the thing. Like, this is not about what my body looks like. This is about what my body can do. And this is amazing. And I feel free. And this is great. And then it flipped again when I started getting hired for Sparkly Lady gigs. And it was like, no, now it is about what your body looks like again. Yeah. Like, this is like, you look like a model, you get more work. Like, that's real. And it like flipped again. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible again. And I'm sad because I was being objectified like on a semi-regular basis. And it was sad.
Yeah.
And it didn't make me feel good. And the work that I love to do as an aerial performer, like myself performing, not so much like choreographing for other people, although I love that too, but like is the work that like you've seen where I do like the cabaret. In a cabaret situation where you're in control of your 3 to 5 minutes on stage, like you're in control of that like mini narrative, like it doesn't matter, like you can't be objectified in the same way because you're the protagonist, right? Like you are in control of that, so it doesn't matter. Like I can choose to be sexy, I can choose to be hideous, I can choose to be whatever I want, and like it's what it is. But yeah, the sparkly lady kicks, man.
But you said pregnancy helped get you out of that mindset. How did that
right
happen?
Well, because I couldn't do it anymore. And
like
so
it literally you had to stop doing it, so it allowed you to escape it.
Yes. And so like I wasn't getting hired for those gigs anymore, and so then I was like, and I had so much less time. I mean, obviously children, like I had so much less time. And so like I couldn't work at 3 a.m. anymore anyway. And I was like, okay, like I have so much energy to like put into my work. Like, what do I really want to do? Like, when the time narrows, you have to decide. You're like, okay, what are my priorities? Like what actually makes me happy? Like, what do I want to be doing? And like, I do love performing and I want to be a working aerialist, but I need to be in control of my stage presentation. I mean, I will still take a sparkly lady gig every now and again. I will. I mean, if someone's going to pay me like, good money for like an easy job, and they can be fun too. It's like, it does depend on context also.
Totally.
It all needs to be in balance.
What did it feel like for you as someone who has started to feel like sort of empowered by what your body could do to be pregnant? Like, what did pregnancy feel like for you?
Oh God, it was just scary.
Yeah.
My actual pregnancy wasn't that bad. Like the pregnancy itself, like I was training and teaching up until like 7 months. And it was like, it was fine. But I was just so scared the whole time. It was just like so scary to watch those changes. Me having control over my body was like a big part of my journey to like being the artist that I consider myself today. And so losing that control was like just terrifying. And I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know if I would recover quickly. I didn't know if I would get diastasis. It doesn't happen in all women. It's like 20% or something. And it has literally nothing to do with physical fitness level. It's just something about like bodies. Like I've had like super strong, like super fit aerialist ladies have it too. But when you get pregnant, the ab muscles will separate and there's degrees of tearing. So like, from mild to severe. And if you have a severe tear, then you basically have to get surgery to like correct it. So it's like the ab muscles tear under the skin.
I have heard of this. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But you knew about that before and you worried about getting it.
Yes.
So here you are, you're pregnant. And so your fear, or is it fear for the like the health of the child or the survival of the child? No, it's all about your career.
It's about career. Is it about career? Is it about
identity.
Career and identity? Yeah, and
yeah,
identity.
It was identity. Yeah, mostly identity.
Yeah,
like who am I now as like a mom? Didn't know what to expect because we never do. But I was like, oh, like like I had been working like in this very youth-driven fields, right? Like they're these are like young, hot, sexy ladies that were my like community at the time. And I was really doing something that like none of them were ready for. A lot of them were younger. I'm like on the older end of it too. And it was just like, I don't know who I'm going to be. And I had this idea of myself. It's like, it's cool. I'm not going to be a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
Yeah.
I'll just strap him to my hip and just go about my day, which is hilarious in retrospect. But I was like hoping, I was like, maybe it'll be like that. And then,
Do you not consider yourself a cool mom? I feel like you are like in the dictionary under cool mom.
I can definitely
Elena.
Tell you're a cool mom.
Right. She's a cool mom. Do you think you're a cool mom, Mary?
No. Absolutely not.
I think you're a cool mom.
You seem
Okay,
pretty
I
cool to
still
me.
wear nursing bras and I'm not nursing.
No, but why?
They're
That's
very comfortable.
And this is cool because why would you go buy another bra if that one's still functional and working?
And so much more comfortable than regular bras.
Yeah.
This is my own. But I feel like my body story with pregnancy is like I discovered all these things that it's like, oh, I could have been doing this the whole time and been more comfortable my whole life.
Oh, really?
Because,
that's amazing.
Yeah, because like clothes made for pregnant and nursing women are so much more woman friendly. Like they're so much more comfortable than clothes made for women who are not pregnant. So I feel like.
You want to hear something hilarious?
Yes.
I didn't wear any, like I would like, like when I was pregnant, I like didn't wear maternity clothes. I was like, I refuse. And I like wore like platform boot shoes, like all the way to
fit
8 months
non-maternity clothes?
I made my own clothes. To like, I was like, I'm not a sad pregnant lady. I'm a cool pregnant lady. Make my own clothes.
Oh my God.
It was, oh my
God. That's incredible. Did you keep them? You still have your
I still wear some of them, yeah. Cause I basically just made a lot of like empire waisted, like stretchy top dresses with like, you know.
Yeah.
You've seen them.
Yeah.
You've seen me wear them. Yeah. I wore those during pregnancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
I did a mix, but I actually loved maternity clothes because I, you know, like for me, I am like a pretty okay relationship with my body, but I think clingy stuff around your midsection, I think for any woman can be hard, and particularly once you've had one kid, because there's a little bit, whatever. And because I have a scar, like it's weird. And then when you're pregnant, it's like, oh, but that's the beauty. And I loved my body pregnant. I liked that. And I was on stage a lot, and I do a lot where I have to like, but like present in front of people and hold authority in a room. And there was something really, really great to me to go out there and be like, y'all are going to listen to me, and I'm going to simultaneously create a life. Yeah. Like I'm going to teach you stuff that you need to know to further your career or be a better person or whatever. Yeah. Also simultaneously, life is the miracle of life is occurring.
Yeah.
Right. You're welcome.
I was similar. I feel I never liked my body my entire life. Like I learned to live with it. I learned to tolerate it. Mm-hmm. But when I was pregnant, I actually was like, oh, this is how it feels to be like, have kind feelings toward my body.
Yeah.
And it was just totally new. Did you not, were you mostly afraid?
I was mostly afraid. Yeah. I was mostly just afraid. I think that's what it was.
So then you have the baby.
Yeah.
And what was that like afterward?
It was.
I mean, you can get into birth story if you want.
It was
that was not directly the.
I mean, but the birth was meh. Like birth is birth, right? Like it's like not the greatest time you've ever had, but important and like, you know,
important.
Yeah, I feel like it was important. Like it was like, I feel like it was important. Like I will, you know, I can remember every moment of that time. For the most part, that 36 hours or whatever, like I, you know, in a way that, you know, I don't remember another 36 hours of my life, like, you know, so yeah, it was significant, but I wasn't like lastingly affected by it either way, other than to have a baby, to not have a baby and then to have a baby. Yeah. Like the actual physical experience of birth, like didn't do anything that I like had to wrestle with later. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of was like, okay, that happened. Mm-hmm. For me, it was breastfeeding that like destroyed my soul. It was like so bad. And I was completely blindsided by it too, because this is another thing. I just didn't think it would be hard. I was like, oh yeah, breastfeeding. Like, I'm going to do that.
Right.
That's what bodies are made for. And I was like, oh no. Whoops. I had a really hard time breastfeeding. Felix had a tongue tie and he had jaundice when he was tiny. Breastfeeding was like horribly painful for me. So in the first month or so of his life, he basically breastfeeding just like stopped working. Like it just wasn't working at all. But I was completely committed to like doing it as much as I could do it. So I did all the things, you know, all the supplements, all the pumping, all the whatever, like everything. So then what that basically amounted to was like in the feeding cycle, which as we know, is like the 3-hour cycle of like, you know, feed, burp, nap, wake time, feed it, start it again. So within that cycle, I would nurse him for a half an hour, and then I would pump for a half an hour after I was done nursing to try to get my supply up because my supply had tanked because he wasn't nursing. And then Blake would help me, or I would bottle feed him the remains of like whatever it was, like during the time that I was pumping. Whatever I had pumped from last time plus formula. And then he was like doing that. So it was like
feeding him
insane
all the time.
Basically. Yeah, basically. So it was like, yeah, it was really hard. And then it kind of worked to get my supply up. And he had the surgery for the tongue tie when he was a little bit older. And then we had like a magical month when he was 3 months where he was EBF for 1 month. He was EBF for 1 month.
EBF
and then
exclusive breastfeeding.
Exclusive breastfeeding, yes. And I was like so proud of myself. And then it like stopped working again. Like my supply dropped again. And yeah, so then he was like combo fed. And so we like mostly breastfed till he was like eating regular solids. And then it was like about half and half. And then I stopped breastfeeding when he was about 16 months. So I'd say the first 6 months was just terrible. I went through a Facebook rabbit hole, which was not a good idea. Don't ever go.
What was that? What do you mean?
The Facebook rabbit hole. Are you not in one? Good for you.
What is a Facebook rabbit hole?
Well, what was your, I mean, Facebook rabbit hole is just being sucked into Facebook.
Oh, yeah. So I joined, your section is I joined all these like breastfeeding Facebook groups and like mommy Facebook groups, which was the worst idea.
I think I've been lucky enough not to be invited to one of those.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
You are a lucky.
Wait, why were they?
You're like, oh, like, you know, I'm worried about, like, I'm trying to get my supply up, but I'm wondering about, like, better formula options. And then it's like, if you feed him formula, then he'll never breastfeed. Like, you know what I mean? And like whatever.
Right.
And also invariably there's an anti-vaxxer, like somewhere in there. Like the whatever common thread it is, like the anti-vaxxer will just like pop up and be like, hey guys, also
vaccine.
And also, did you know there's arsenic in rice? You're welcome. It's just like it's just terrible. Like,
here is something that I've decided I want to write a short story about. But Mary, you can help me because you're very good at this. So I am nursing. Essentially, my identity as an adult is someone who is a child feeding from me. And, but because I travel a lot and we've had to bring in some formula because I can't always bring all of my milk back, but it means that I never have ever given my son formula or my daughter because I am the body that does it. So anyway, so we have this formula. Iris is no longer taking bottles. She's just nursing. She doesn't need that much. She's almost one.
Yeah.
So I put it on our Facebook group and I was here's some formula. It's opened, but it doesn't expire until like 2019 or something, 2020. And I sort of made a joke. I was like, so even if your baby isn't a glint in your eye, like your baby can eat this. I had no fucking idea that formula expires when it's open.
Oh yeah.
After 1 month or something.
After 1 month. Yeah. So I'm an idiot. So someone writes, she's like, how long has it been open? And I was like, I don't even know. So then it's very clear that I don't know.
Yeah.
So then I say to her something like, well, I've never given my baby a bottle. And then I'm like, come on, Kate, because now it feels like I'm shaming her because clearly she needs formula for some reason. It could be a completely not emotional thing, but it could be an emotional thing.
Right.
So then I'm like direct messaging her and I'm trying to dig myself out of the hole and be like, well, I haven't because of this. But then I'm just like, well, what are you saying, Kate? Like like I'm trying to explain to her why I haven't given my child formula in a non-judgmental way.
Yeah.
But that DM thread. Yeah. And then I was literally like, should I write back again? Should I just write back and say like, I support your feeding journey?
Yeah.
Like there's something anyway, we'll talk.
No, I hear
we'll
that.
talk off podcast about how this can be a short story. But there is like, it's crazy.
It's so
because
hard.
it is so emotional. The way you feed your child is so emotionally charged.
Yeah.
And then wanting to be conscious of, for me, it's very important to me. Like I firmly believe fed is best. So however we feed our child, we've done a combination of formula and breast milk. And, you know, Lord knows that formula is probably better than the breast milk I'm pumping with 600 cups of coffee in me anyway. So like
Curtis Sittenfeld has a story about this in that collection. Collection.
Yes.
Yeah.
The nursing the
nursing
baby
story.
with the interview. It's so good. Yeah.
Oh no, the other one where she goes to breastfeeding support group.
Oh yeah.
And it's just traumatic for her and she just leaves and like starts formula.
I don't know who this author is.
You have to read her.
Are you going to put the link in your podcast notes?
We will. Yes, we should put that. So then you have Felix. So it's so that nurse. So when do you get back to your aerial work physically? I mean, you're choreographing and like in teaching, but like when do you bring your body back into it? In that
way? I feel like I still am trying to do that. I feel like it's still like I'm still basically I unhealthily managed to get my body into some kind of shape to do an act by the time Felix was about a year and a half. Through just like, I don't know, sheer stubbornness. I was just like, I'm going to do this.
Why unhealthy? Why do you say unhealthy?
Because I was just like so wrapped up in like getting my body back that I just like did it. You know what I mean? It like wasn't about like, I just like did all my old training things. Like, I don't think I ate particularly healthily. And then I did an act when Felix was like a 1.5. And it was fine. Like, I don't think anyone from the outside would have been like, this is like not a good act. Like, I think people would have been like, this is like great and fine. And she looks like great and fine. I wasn't happy with the process, and that made me unhappy. Like, so afterward, I had like massive show letdown. You've had show letdown before. Yeah. So I just like was like, and I was like inconsolable for like 3 months. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know if this is like working. Like, I don't know if I can get back, and like blah, blah, blah. And I like stopped training for a short amount of time. But I was like still teaching and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just keep moving forward. Like, it'll be fine. And then I started working with, so I have a friend who's an aerialist too, who actually owns Secret Loft, but she's also a personal trainer. So she has like a breadth of like physical knowledge that I actually never had as like an aerialist, because my only physical training had been through aerial, which kind of like, if you think about it, like the macro muscle motions that you use are very specific and specialized, and like they do build all over strength, but there's like certain deficiencies that can happen if you're not training like correctly. So I started to work with her like a couple sessions, and she really like helped me design like an overall like training regime that helped me get into like a much healthier space. So now I'm like much more like in a healthier space. And I think it's only in the past like 6 months to a year that I feel like I'm like in a better place physically. That I'm like able to like do all the things. Like, I'm like incorporating enough training, able to teach my classes, finding my balance, and being able to choreograph a little bit as well. So now that's like coming into more balance, which is good, I think. So in the last like year or so, I think that's been the big change, which has been great.
It's interesting because I knew you during that time.
Yeah.
And of course, it's like there's like such a meta theme in parenting always, where like you see people and you're like, everyone's doing a great job. Everyone like gets it. And you're like, I was going through extreme emotional issues with my body and whatever. And I'm like, Elena's a super talented aerialist. Who I admire. And one of the things that I have to say about the type of performance that you do is that I think a lot of people, like particularly in my world in storytelling, like anyone can get on stage and do it. That's the beauty of the form, and it's what I love. It's everyone. But it is amazing for me. And I don't know how to not sound like an asshole when I say this, but as someone who's performed, who's done other types of stuff, most of the time when I see a show, I'm like, I could do like the community theater version of this. Like on some, I can sing enough. I'm funny enough, whatever. Going to see you perform, there's none of that. It's like, I know there's no way. I'm literally laying on the ground pulling a piece of fabric.
I'm dying to see you perform.
I know.
I'm so excited.
She's amazing. I'll show you the blurry photo I took while weeping.
No, just Toni Braxton. As soon as I heard the Toni Braxton.
It's so good. You'll never hear the song in the same way again.
It's
can you tell us about a day in your life?
I'll tell you about my Wednesdays because they're my like worst day. Wednesdays are my worst day. So I wake up and I give Felix breakfast.
What time?
Felix wakes up at like anywhere from like 6 to 7:30. And then I make his lunch for school. And then I get ready, so take a shower and all that. And he yells at me while I put on my makeup.
Yeah.
It's like, Mommy, no, put on your makeup. Like, I have to do it. Why don't you want to play with me? Play with me. Anyways, so that happens. And then we go to school, and I drop them off. And I see all the moms that drop off, which is cute.
Yes.
And we have a stop and chat, which is cute. Just like a check-in. And then I go to Gowanus to a circus school there, which takes me an hour on the train. And I listen to my favorite podcast, which is Keep It, which I really find entertaining.
I don't know.
It's like a cultural. It's the Crooked Media dudes, the like politics bros guys, but it's their like cultural podcast. It's like within their like media empire.
Right.
And I put it in our liner notes.
I like it.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then I teach my class, which is a hoop class Wednesdays. And then I'll usually get some lunch, and then I'll usually go home and do the mountain of dishes that have piled up because I don't have a dishwasher. And then I will go and pick up Felix from school, and we will go to the park, and we will hang out. And then I will come home, and I will have a phone call, usually somewhere in there, with my husband, and we argue about whose turn it is to make dinner and whether or not I should go grocery shopping at that time. And then we figure it out somewhere in there. I'm really bad at meal planning. And then we have dinner together, and then I leave again for the city to teach another 2 classes at a studio called Body and Pole Wednesday evenings, which is a hoop class and a fabrics class. And then I come home. It's like 10. But that's my longest day.
And your husband
that's the day that like does a lot for me.
Yeah.
That is a lot. Just hearing it makes me exhausted.
Yeah.
And your husband puts
Don't make dinner those
Felix
days.
to bed that night.
I normally don't.
Yeah.
I normally don't. It's been like a pizza night kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah.
I have can we back up for a second?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was so fascinating what you were saying about how pregnancy forced you to reconcile with the fact that you had started to hate your body again.
Yeah.
How are your feelings toward your body? Where have they landed now?
I feel like they haven't. I feel like it's still in flux, like good days and bad days. You know what I mean? Like I'll wake up some days and be like, I'm like good. Like I have a healthy relationship with food. I definitely have a healthy relationship with food right now, which I think is like, that's great for me. Like that's like big, and I like that, and that's great. But my actual body, like it depends. Like some days, like what I do is so dependent on all this stuff that I don't have control over. You know what I mean? Like I was up late last night, like worrying about something. And so I went to train at like the gym or like a circus space, and like I had a crap training day, and like nothing worked, and I feel like a crappy aerialist. And some days I'll wake up and be like, oh, like my body's amazing, look at all the things I can do. And then some days I'll be like, I want plastic surgery so I can get all the sparkly lady gigs.
Should we ask our last question, which is life? Do you have a hack, a life hack to share?
A life hack
for like being a parenting who makes art with a capital A.
The finest art.
Yes, the finest art. Life hack. I was thinking about this, and this is gonna sound like garbled, and it may not make a lot of sense, but I feel like my only life hack for being a parent and being an artist at the same time is that you have to allow space for gear switching and not feel shitty about it. And like not make yourself feel bad about it. Like there's like a certain amount, there's just like so much gear switching that has to happen. There's so much like, now I'm a mom, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that, now I'm doing this. And it takes time and rest to like actively change those patterns and thoughts. And in that time, you can't like be as efficient, or like you can't move as quickly. And in the first couple of years of Felix's life, used to feel so guilty about it. I'd be like, oh my goodness, like I just spent like 15 minutes like scrolling through Facebook mindlessly, and I feel bad about it. And I wasn't paying attention to my son, and I wasn't working on these emails that I had to send, and I like wasn't doing this thing, and I would like feel terrible about it. But now I realize that like no, that is like the gear switching time, and that's valid and you need it. I now also am trying to be unsuccessfully more mindful of like the way I spend that time. And I've like tried to be like, okay, like I'm not going to spend that time on my phone. I'm going to like just like literally sit here for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like after I drop Felix off at school, I'll like go and just like sit for like 10 minutes and like just like sit at a cafe and like drink a coffee and just be like, I'm just going to sit until I have to go on the train, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that that is really helpful.
Well, that makes me feel better. I like hearing that. I like that.
Yeah.
hack.
I feel like it's something
Yeah.
that I need to hear like every day as a mantra.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because I'm I was thinking when I was walking here, like, I'm like Pigpen, but for tasks. Like I'm always multitasking. I'm always doing 60 things, which means I'm constantly failing. And I'm totally intellectually aware
Are we using
of it,
the F word on this podcast?
Oh, did I swear?
You said failing.
Oh.
I feel like that's a way worse word.
Oh, yeah. I was
just
like,
for me personally, it like fills me with dread.
Oh, I actually don't. I don't fail it, but I'll like, you know, like a typo, or I'll like forget something. You know, I'll be sending emails quickly and be like, oh, I already asked you that question. Like that type of failure. Yeah. That type of thing. Well, I have a question that relates to the hack, sort of, which is there anything that you would like advice you would give to your pre-parenthood self, like something you wish you knew or something?
I like that one.
Yeah. It would be oh God. No.
I mean, I sort of feel like it's the life hack that you said in some way.
Yeah, I feel like it's that.
It's maybe redundant.
I feel like it's that.
Question,
but like pre-baby me was like so ridiculous. Like I wouldn't have listened to anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I couldn't have gotten to post-baby me without being so dumb as a pre-baby person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like those two people are not friends and they shouldn't be.
I love that I don't have any advice because like that girl would not listen.
She would not listen. People would tell her and she would just be like, no.
It's so hard to understand, I think, truly, you know, pre-parenthood, what these things mean.
Yeah.
That you will be the person like looking up reviews of sippy cups, even if you consider yourself to be a person who wants to like change the world. Like you are going to have to devote time to that. And it doesn't mean that you're a shallow person.
I ordered my first sippy cup yesterday.
Oh, congratulations. Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
Is it the one
transition cup?
Is it the one with the valve on the top?
That's the hot one right now.
Yeah.
I'll send you a link.
It'll
It'll be in our notes. Curtis Sittenfeld, the letdown, all the other things. Yes.
Thank you so much again for having me.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back here with more I'm Still Here. I'm Kate Tellers.
And I'm Mary Atkins. See you next time.
Coming up next.
I feel like that piece of my physical life now causes me to question my identity a lot more than I would have thought.
Because you don't have a pelvic floor? I mean, it's not funny. I mean, it's funny, but not funny.
Yeah, it is. Pelvic floor is like a little bit of a funny term.
Yeah. On this next episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. Elena's interview about the physicality of pregnancy and childbirth was something that's still very close to home for both me and Mary, since we've both had kids within the past year. So we actually stuck around after the interview to talk about it between ourselves, and we made it into its own episode. So next time we talk surprises in the shower, pelvic floors, and why we're really grateful for black running tights. Get creative. Go to imstillherepodcast.com to find links where you can rate, review, and subscribe.
I'm still here.